All right. Um, it's really good to see you guys and your faces. I know this is such a fearful time, and so many of us are looking for ways to get all of this done and to do it efficiently. And I just want you to know that we are working nonstop to come up with as many ideas as possible. I hope that all of you took that link, that Google form that Sarah and I, that outrageously like crazy Google form that Sarah and I have been brainstorming ideas. I'm going to actually make my son go outside and remake his kindergarten picture tomorrow. I'm just going to make it because he's a senior and I just want to see what it looks like.
He's going to kill you.
No, I'm going to go find what he had on and I'm going to dress him in something similar and take that photo. So I think that is going to be really, really fun. Sarah's going to lead this one. We did another one at 10 this morning and I did it. And then I'm just going to answer as much as I can in the chat. And then we're going to download the chat and do a Q&A that we'll send out to you guys. But really today we wanted to kind of just talk about coverage. I'm pretty emotional about this school year. This has been a real wake-up call for me as a yearbook rep. Even though I work really long hours and work really hard, I still always know that there's things I can do better. And by having a senior this year, it's really made me look at how these seniors and these 8th graders and these 5th graders are going to be feeling, because I really do believe this is the group that needs us more than any group we've ever worked with, because these kids are not starting off their school normal. It's easier, I think, to end not normal than it is to start not normal, and so these kids, we're really going to have to foster them. And I have a kid who's very sensitive and we talk a lot. And during the pandemic, it's really shown me that maybe our yearbooks needed a wake up call. Maybe this is our wake up call. And that maybe instead of having 84 pages of sports in our books, that we need to diversify and we need to see more about our kids and tell their stories. There's just so much we're not telling in our books. So what I want us to do is I want us to get our mind kind of just readjusted. Maybe that's what today's about. It's just readjusting what is going to be important in our books, how we're going to engage our students, because your administrators and you, more important than anything else, want these kids engaged, because whether they're virtual, they're in and out, whatever they are, just keeping them a part of our school is going to be so important even for the years to come. And we want their parents to feel like that we're doing a good job covering it. So I'm going to let Sarah kind of take over from here, and I'll monitor the chat as best I can. And I promise to behave. My dog's angry. I've locked him out of the office. So he's like, why is the door not open? Oh, all right, pretty baby. That gets the vote for the prettiest person on the screen. Pretty baby. I love it. Anybody else got any babies they want to throw up there? They can. But I'm going to let Sarah start. Sarah, if you'll start with recording it. I don't know if you've already started that.
I have.
Well, you're just brilliant.
All right. About that, but all right.
Go for it.
All right. So let me start by showing you this massive spreadsheet that we created. I hope some of you had a chance to look over this and it didn't scare you too bad. Can you see my screen? Okay, good. So basically what we were thinking is yearbook is really all about being a journalist. You're recording what is happening in your school in this year, and you're the only one doing that. So I think some of us get so bogged, and myself included, so bogged down in what we've always done. It's really easy to think no sports, no clubs, and panic and think, what am I going to put in my book? But if you think about what we still do have, we still have students. We still have groups of kids. We still have athletes. We still have academics. We still have lots of things that we want to cover. We just might want to think about a different way to do it. And like Kim said, it is a time to reflect on what's worked in the past and what hasn't. And maybe that traditional coverage of doing things by section isn't the way to go. So as a reporter, you're going to cover a beat. You're going to go out and you're going to find out what's happening in your school this week, right now. And so that's what I would encourage you to do. And that's how weekly and monthly coverage will work. If you're a larger school, if you're a high school, you might want to try the weekly coverage. Smaller high schools or middle schools might want to try monthly coverage. And this may mean adjusting some of your page counts, or it may not, but that's going to be a conversation that we'll have with you individually. Kim is going to reach out to you. She has a lot of you, so give her time if you haven't heard from her yet, but she's going to reach out to you and talk to you about your page counts and what she thinks you need to change and what she thinks we need to continue to do. So the question is, what do you put on these pages? And the answer that Kim and I came up with is, well, what's happening this week? So if you look at these calendars, we've kind of mapped out all the months of school. And then over here in this column, we've given you some ideas of things that you might want to cover for that month. So in this scenario, which doesn't have to be what you do, it's just a suggestion, we've broken our hypothetical staff down into 3 groups. So we have group A, group B, and group C. So in the very first week of school, group B is in planning. They are considering what's going to happen next week and what they might cover. Group A is in gathering. They are going out and getting interviews and taking photos and actually gathering the content. And for week 1, you're going to want to pull your new students aside and give them some instruction. So then week 2, you see it shifts. So last week, group A was gathering materials. This week, they're assembling it. They're putting their pages together. While group B, that was planning last week, is now gathering. They planned last week that what they were going to cover this week, and now they're going to go out into the school or into the virtual world, and they're going to cover the content that they planned for last week. Meanwhile, group C is in the planning phase, and they rotate. So there's always somebody planning, always somebody gathering, always somebody assembling a page. You always have pages ready, and you don't have to know until 1 week before what you're going to cover on that spread. So if we pop up in December and decide we're going to have a last-minute football game because we are allowed to now, we don't have to have a football spread. We're just going to pop it in that spread that's the week in December. Does that make sense to you? All right, so for August, maybe if I'm group, let's say I'm group A. So I'm going to go out the first week of school to gather, and I'm going to cover summer adventures, first day of school, and then maybe I want to cover like choosing to go virtual because we want to cover our virtual students as well. And maybe I want to do some social media. So I'm going to check off that I'm doing those. And then I'm going to come in here and say I'm group A, whatever group you are, and maybe what week it is. So August 17th. So we know that that content has been covered. So if you generate this list that's specific to your school, you can verify that everything gets covered by the end of the year. It just may not be done in the same way you've always done it, but it'll all be covered. And it'll also minimize things being duplicated. Are you with me so far? All right, good deal. All right, so I know that this is a lot to think about and a lot to take on, but we have given you such a huge amount of stuff to look at here, all of these different ideas for things to cover. It's going to be different from every school. I think the second thing you need to think about is now that we've decided what we're going to cover is how do you make a spread that is organized like this? You know, you're used to having a spread with a football portrait, team portrait, and the list of names and a few interviews and some action shots. So to take this new idea and embrace it is one thing, but how do you put it on the page is a whole nother thing. So I want to show you two. The first thing is just some design ideas that we've come up with to show you what it might look like. So I'll just let you see these. There are student profiles I think are brilliant. You can use those in so many ways. We can talk about your morning routine. We can do a day of the week where you just do a snapshot from each day of the week. But you can see each one of these is labeled with what week it is. What content is being covered. How many of your students were essential workers and still had to go in to work at Walmart, to work at a drive-through? What's life like in school wearing masks? There's still so many things to cover. This is an example of a monthly spread. Again, middle schools might want to go more this route. So here we've covered how did you spend your Valentine's Day? What's it like to be a leap year baby? Who would you vote for in the election? And I just picked 3 random people and let's say, you know, if these were who were running for president, who would you vote for? This one is, have you met Alex? This is an idea that I actually learned at JU, if any of you went. But the idea that there are so many students with the same name in your school, that's a fun thing to cover. So those are some that we threw together to show you as an example, but I also wanted to show you some that are happening in real life. We have several schools that have been doing weekly coverage for a while now. So I pulled 2 of these just for you to have an example here. This is Apex High School's book this year. You can see that they have labeled the week clearly. And they've pulled out things that happened during the week that might have been special. So here, go into the mattresses. They did a fundraiser where that's the strangest fundraiser to me, but everybody does it, selling some mattresses. These are some of their mods that they had that matched their theme, a numbers game, game on, Q&A. And you'll see some of these same things repeated on other spreads, but they've been repurposed. The colors are slightly different. They're in a new location, but they're not having to reinvent the wheel. They've come up with a bunch of good core concepts, and then they can piece them together wherever they fit. The other example I have for you is Apex Friendship High School. And again, what do you see that's the same? They still have identified what week we're on. They've provided the folio. These down here are like moments from the week. There's one from each day, and they're dated with the, I think it's the month and the day down there. Different content that they covered because it just happened that week. This is Tracksgiving, where the track team got together for Thanksgiving. So they covered that in November. This particular week was their moment of the week. They're all holding the yearbook. I'm assuming, I didn't ask Chris, but I'm assuming this is just their cover proof that they got because of the time of the year it is. But all right, so if we know how we want to structure things and we know how we're going to get it on the page, I feel like question number 3 is, well, where do we get these pictures? If we're not in school, where do we get these pictures? And so crowdsourcing is going to become really important. Crowdsourcing is all about reaching out to the people that can be involved in getting pictures back from them. And so that's going to mean training them to do that. And that is going to be an adjustment. So the first thing I have to show you is not that, this. All right. So I think you guys know, can you see my crowdsourcing photos on my screen? No, not yet. All right, hold on.
You have to share that new screen.
Okay. Let's do new share. What about now?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so crowdsourcing photos is going to be important. And I have 3 different ways for you to physically get the pictures from them to you. One is Google Drive, which I know you guys have used and are familiar with. You can make a bulk folder that you then share out, and inside that folder are mini folders that are subdivided similarly to your image library where people can upload photos. The downside to Google Drive is that if you give them permission to access the photos, you're also giving them permission to delete the photos. And you're also letting everybody see everybody else's photos. So to me, this one is the easiest, but it's also the most risky. So you can weigh the pros and cons there. Another good option still using Google is to use Google Forms, and you can actually send out a form and you can ask for specific photos. So you might send out a form that says, send me all your first day of school pictures, and they can answer by uploading photos. Each question I think can have 5 or 10 photos uploaded, but you can ask multiple questions. The third option is Jostens private image share. Now it's still called Replay It, but it's not Replay It like Replay It. It is no longer an app. It is all online, and it's just a place for them to upload pictures. They go into your image library just like you're used to with Replay It so that you can use them. But without the app, in it being all online, there's fewer glitches and less lag time with that. And so that is completely private. Students cannot see what other people have submitted. They can't delete what other people have submitted. So that's a good option. Those are going to be very specific to your school. So the other thing that I've created, let's see if I can share this. All right, can you see it? Kim, can you see my InDesign file? Okay, I'm gonna guess yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
had muted.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So each of you will get a QR code. I'm creating these and generating and sending them to you. So you'll be getting an email from me with this QR code. This can be posted on social media. It can be posted on your website. It can be printed and put on the front doors of the school. You can put them in teachers' mailboxes. You scan this QR code and it takes you to a website that will ask you to upload pictures. And that's it. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's super simple. It's just about getting the word out. So we know how we're going to organize our book. We know how we're going to do the layouts. We know how we're going to crowdsource photos. So I feel like that really tackles some of the biggest issues that we were concerned about this year. What are you thinking? How are you feeling?
Well, and then there's a couple of questions here I think there are going to come up.
Sure.
I had one earlier today is like, how about our school pictures? And I think that you guys have got to be, this is about being fluid and about, you know, making changes. Some of you may not have school pictures until the spring. Some of you may have part school pictures that are done at school and half of the kids send in their own picture. We're just going to have to look at each case individually. For elementary schools, I think each teacher, you could ask them, you know, could you ask each parent to send a picture of their kid to be included in the yearbook? I feel like we just have to be flexible. And it's like I told someone today when they were trying to figure out their ladder, I said, count up how many pages you used last year for people. Let's plan the same, but let's put them maybe toward the end of the book right now. And then as we know more about our school picture programs and how that has, you know, is going to work. Because with Image Share, it actually has, when you go to upload, I actually scan Sarah's QR code and sent a picture to Moore Square Middle School, which was our guinea pig this morning of my dog. And it says if you're a senior, what kind of, you know, JPEG or whatever to send. But it also tells you, it asks you for the name, the email, the grade, and a description of the photo. So it's more than just the photos just uploaded. They have to give you information.
There's the baby.
What? Yeah, see, there's Jasper on the beach. And it sent him that picture. And Sarah, if you click on details.
Came from Kim Trezona.
It'll say
Jasper.
It came from me.
And it says,
and it will also be able so you can go back and ask them a question. And I mean, I told her it was Jasper Trezona and there was not a grade. But you can write more in the description or less in the description. So that's something that you guys can see. All right, let me go back to this screen.
I think too, maybe we should walk them through how to do a ladder like this.
Okay, so let's look. Why don't you pull up that bullet one, because I kind of played on it a little bit as an example.
All right.
And we talked about this morning, like how to count your pages and just kind of start. Now, the greatest thing about doing weekly or monthly coverage is you're going to do the title page. You're not going to skip it. You're going to do the title page. And then you're going to just keep doing pages as in order. So we can still meet some deadlines. I actually might be able to print a few pages in the plan. But also, you know, I told somebody this morning, I said, so what? How about if your book ends in June? How about if you just take it all the way through graduation this year and you include graduation? So what? Then we'll print the book and we'll distribute our nice little drive-throughs in July or August. I mean, don't say no. Think about all the things we can do, because we can do this for these kids. I just don't want this to be that forgotten group because we didn't.
Right.
We've got so many stories to tell. All those kids we never get to know, this is our chance. And man, if you connect with the right parents, you're going to get some pictures, I'm telling you. So Sarah, you want to show them that screen and talk about that ladder a little bit?
Yeah, I do. So this is my son's elementary school. So it's a little tiny book that I do for them because, you know, it's my kid. So we can mess in this book and nobody's going to get mad because I'm the advisor. All right. So page 1 is the title page. And then we've got a theme divider. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to go all the way to the very end. And I'm going to think, all right, I've talked to Kim. We've discussed pages. I know if I want to add some or take some out. And between the two of us, we decided maybe 4 pages gone this year would be a good place to start. So I'm going to just block off 4 pages, pretend like they're not even there. And then I'm going to back up and I'm going to say, all right, I had 3 pages of ads last year. So I'm going to block off room for 3 pages of ads, especially your 5th graders, 8th graders, and 12th graders. I think you're going to get a lot of parent ads. These kids are missing so many things. The parents want to give them what they can. And this is one of the traditions that they can keep. Business ads, that might be where some of these pages go. It may not. I don't know. It's going to depend on the community. But again, we'll talk to each of you about that individually. So then I'm going to back up again and I'm going to do portraits. Now, portraits can go anywhere you want them to, but maybe putting them at the end would be better because we don't know when they're going to be taken and we don't know how many we're going to have. So for now, I'm going to just block off the same number of portrait pages that I had last year. And then I'm going to go, so now I've done from the bottom up, right? I've done ads, index, if you want to do index, portrait pages. And then if I go back to the top after my theme divider, I can start doing week 1, August 17th through August 21st, week 2, August 24th through 28th, week 3, week 4. I can throw a specialty spread in there now and then. If you're going to do a virtual spirit week, then maybe you want to do one entire spread on that spirit week and not try to put it in a tiny little mod. So then you can work your way through until you meet in the middle. And then from there, we can say, okay, well, how smart was it to take out those 4 pages? Should we have left them in? Do we need to pull a few more out? And that's, again, a conversation we can have with you guys one-on-one.
I just want you to be able to start planning and kind of look at this as a logical way to do it. So you're not just like, oh, what do I do first? You know, I think everybody's going to probably take a few pages out of their book. I mean, we probably will have less portraits. I mean, that's probably going to happen. We're probably going to have less business ads. The key is not to fill business pages with something else and you lose money. So my job is to make sure you're on budget. That's what I have to do. So that's what I've been doing. And it is a tedious process because I'm basically sitting here counting every page in your book that I think maybe, like if you had 84 pages of sports last year out of 300-page book, and that's what I'm talking about. Maybe our coverage is not being balanced. So I'm going to take those 84 and I might divide those in half and say, okay, we're taking out half of the 84 pages right to begin with because there's no way I'm going to have that much filler. And so then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to look at your budget and I'm going to look at what the price points are and how you sold your book. Now, this is key. When I send you your answers on price points and all that stuff, let's just realize that I am matching every date to the national campaigns. So when I say back to school ends on October 23rd, that's the latest date I can run back to school. I picked the very last one so that the parents would have 2 whole months to buy at the lowest price, okay? Because I knew that start of school was going to be the most hectic and most confusing. I can't go past October 23rd, all right, for back to school. Pretty much by then, we're back somewhere. And then the second campaign is going to go through December 18th, which I think is fabulous for right at semester end or beginning or however you want to do it. The third campaign is going to be the end of personalization, which is 129. It's the same for everybody. So everybody's will be the same. And if we keep them that way, we can benefit from all the national emails and stuff that go out to the parents. So that gives us more work, less work, and more bang for our buck that way. Okay. Keep in mind, parents don't know if your book has 68 pages or 78 pages. They don't know. Okay. It's irrelevant to them. What's relevant is that you're covering everything that's important. All right. So think coverage, not number of pages. That's where you need to get your brain and my brain around. Another thing is, like I said, think about your ads this year. Ad services works really good, which is where the parents upload, make their own ad. It goes on a page, then you can proof it before it's submitted. this year, Sarah, there's a really good thing about ad services, isn't there? About the fonts.
Oh, I'm so excited about ad services, you guys. Have you used ad services before? Do you know what she's talking about?
Mhm.
We have a program by which parents create their own ads. So you don't have to collect pictures, you don't have to scan anything, and you don't have to return anything. The parents go online at jostens.com, they create their ad, and it is put in your book. And then you have final say over it. You can approve it, edit it. In the past, the parents had like 2 fonts to choose from. This year, you will be allowed to go in as the advisor and approve any fonts before they're made. So any font that you have turned on for use in your book can also be used in ads. So
It's a lot more uniformity,
yes,
for your book.
parents will have a lot more flexibility if you give it to them in their fonts, but they'll still feel like they fit in your book, which I love.
Mm-hmm. There was one other question, and I can't remember. Somebody just asked me, like, some parents send you every picture they ever had of their child, and then some nobody, some won't send any pictures.
Yeah.
Which is it's just true. I mean, come on, some of you out there are that parent that sends everything in, and some of you are that parent who never sends anything in. I think that's where Google Forms is going to be your friend, because that's where you send it to specific people with specific requests. So you're not just blanketing the whole school, you might send it. And I suggested this in our first meeting this morning. Take your book from last year. Get every kid that was on the football team that's going to be a junior, it was a junior last year, that's going to be a senior, get all those names listed somewhere in some kind of form for you with their emails. Every cross country runner, every volleyball player, every student government person, get their student emails already in some type of format. So when your kids and you are getting ready to source out questions, you can go through and pick people to send those Google Forms to, so you get responses from a variety of kids. And you guys all have access to your student emails. We don't. So you could easily pick 10 kids to send a Google form to and say, you've been picked for the yearbook to be in this section. This is what we need from you. Could you answer a couple of questions? And that's how you're going to get more kids in the book rather than the blanket, just send us your pictures. Does that make sense?
We have 10 minutes left and then we run out of time. So I think we're going to be fine. One question Anna asked, and I think this is super relevant for everybody, is how do you cover virtual events? So aside from just crowdsourcing the photos, how do you actually cover the event? And I think one thing is knowing what's happening.
Yes.
So I would suggest that you get on any coaches, any clubs, anybody's mailing list or text list. If they're texting all of their football team to let them know that we're having a Zoom meeting at this time to go over plays, or we're going to do some online conditioning, be in on that text message or that email so that you know what's happening.
For high schools, your staff, you can assign them to get with the coach and have their name added to the text. So if a group text go out, then they're covering something about football conditioning, they get the text and then they can be on the group call. And keep in mind that you're asking people to voluntarily send you pictures, so that they have to grant their permission in the image share, that they've read the terms and conditions, blah, blah, blah. So you wouldn't have to get permission to use those photos. They're giving them to you. All right. That's important. But I would get some lists started right now. I mean, that just, going through my old book, there's 12 kids that ran cross country last year. They're going to be back. Cross country kids are still running, people. They run all the time. I don't know what's wrong with those kids. They just run. I mean, I go down Cary Parkway and there's a whole bunch of them. They just running down the road for no reason. So they're always running. So that's a story in itself, And then theme. I know some of you let's make this theme uplifting and fun. I had one today and I'm going to give away their theme, and I won't tell the school, but you cannot steal it unless you're in another county away from them. But it was virtually anything.
Ooh, I like
Isn't that the cutest? Oh my God. So then we went through and we came up with new words like practically nothing or practically always, or, it's just so much fun. And it didn't have to be about virtual learning. It's just about how we overcome obstacles and things. I've seen some really fun things. One school's doing shift. I gotta be careful with that one because sometimes stuff happens. So we gotta make sure that it's spelled correctly everywhere. And shift is a really fun thing though, because we're all shifting every day what we're doing. But play out your words this year. Really have fun with that. And for most of you, like high schools, once you come up with your theme and your ideas, we'll set up virtual appointments to help with cover ideas and cover art, and really getting the kids excited about it. I mean, I don't know this. I cry thinking about this, and not a bad way. I cry thinking about a whole mod on every spread of get to know me, and it's just a new student that nobody's ever asked a question to before, and we get to know them.
I have a rising fifth grader and a rising kindergartner. Don't ask me how I'm going to school them and work, but one of the things,
our own problems.
right. One of the things that we've talked about in my house is, where am I going to put them? They can't be in my office because then we're all Zooming in the same place, right? So setting up your virtual learning stations. Every kid's going to have a spot. Is it the couch? Is it the recliner? Is it their bedroom? Do they have a desk? Where are you learning virtually? And get that would be a great thing to ask, and let students submit that. Think about what everybody's going through, and how can you address that in a positive way? Because I hadn't figured out how yet, but once I get something set up for my children, you take a picture of it, I send it into their advisor, and then they have something to post. Screenshots of like, I don't know, are y'all looking at everybody's faces? Okay, a screenshot of that would be beautiful. And then say, today we talked about how we're going to organize our books, right? And you do a little write-up about that. And this is your image.
We're going to get, school will start off a little slower than normal, and that's okay. But we got a lot of good stories out there. But we're going to get through this. And we care about you guys. And we're not going to figure this out. I'm telling you, we will do this together.
Yep.
All right.
It's a team effort. We love you guys.
We'll send it out. Keep sending your questions. Vicki, you always have been resilient. That's why I like that theme. We got you.